Hi, my name is Katie O'Brien, and I am an integrated language arts major at Beagley College here at Youngstown State University. And I was asked to share the lesson plans I created for my critical task in one of my classes over the national award winning autobiography graphic novel by Jared J. Krasaska, which is Hey Kiddo. So, throughout this short video, I'm going to go over why I chose Hey Kiddo, the significance of why I think it should be taught in a high school classroom, and I'm going to briefly go over a few of the activities that I included in my lesson plans in hope that you guys may think that graphic novels are actually okay to teach in a high school, and especially topics like Krasaska talks about in his graphic novel, and that maybe you'll adopt some of these activities into your own plans one day, or just embrace the idea of teaching a graphic novel in your classroom. So first, I'm going to start my presentation so you guys can see this. And we'll first start talking about why I chose this book. So, Hey Kiddo is a graphic novel that revolves around a young boy whose mother struggles with addiction. His mother constantly falls back into this just trial and just addiction and crime, and she's always in and out of rehab and rehabilitation centers. And Jarrett just ends up growing up in this reality of not having a mother, and his father's never in his life. So he struggles with trying to fit in, being normal, especially because he lives with his grandparents. That's unlikely for children, young children, and even children in high school to grow up that way. This book really allows students to gain a deeper understanding of families, relationships, and just struggle with addiction and how families react to this struggle and deal with this struggle. And it really is a hard topic to teach to students. But Krasaska shows us this topic within a graphic novel from his childhood perspective, which is brilliant for young adult readers to be able to relate to, sympathize with, and be able to understand what is happening in his life and his childhood and how he grows up with the struggle. Um, like I said, he struggles with being normal in school, and I believe that the book will open up the students' minds to this hard topic to understand. And I also think that it'll allow students to really grasp the idea of reading graphic novels and let it be more widely accepted. Graphic novels, they're thought of as a picture book or a comic book, but there's so much more to that. Graphic novels are more than just pictures. You have to be able to read not only the physical words on the page, but graphic novels represent themselves with stylistic elements. And stylistic elements within a graphic novel tell the reader and audience just as much, if not maybe even more, than the physical text on the page. So there's a lot that goes into them, a lot of thought, a lot of work from the authors, and teaching that to students is very beneficial. And I think it would be more widely accepted if it's taught more in the classroom. So, like I said, Jared's mother struggles with addiction, and this book really follows that struggle with Jared and how he copes with it and deals with it. As you can see, these are pictures that I took from the book. Um, and you can see constantly Leslie, his mother, is being, taken in by the cops, covering up crimes, going back down the drug path, stealing, and she always just goes right back to the rehabilitation centers and just leaves a void in Jared's life, this void that he cannot fill, his own mother absent, and he never sees her, and she never comes around, and she makes all these open-ended promises to him, and we just watch him go down this path and this struggle. And it's really enlightening for students to be able to see that and relate to it and sympathize and really want better for their own lives and aim to strive in life and be like Jared and come out the other end and be successful. So many people may ask, why is it pertinent to even teach in the classroom? It's such a touchy topic for some people, but the National Institute of Drug Abuse reported that in 2017, Ohio had the second highest rate of drug overdose deaths involving opioids in the US. There were 4,293 reported deaths, a rate of 39.2 deaths per 100,000 people. That is compared to the national average of 14.6 deaths per 100,000 people. In Ohio alone, in our communities, in our cities, in our schools even, I mean, we're doubling the national average rate of opioid deaths. So this book really will give students an insight to what is happening around them, whether our community, turns a blind eye to this, or, they pay attention to it on the news. This is happening around us, and these kids need to realize that it could be happening to the person sitting next to them in class. It could be happening to their next door neighbor, and it could probably be happening in their community. So being able to understand what these families and these people are going through, especially from the eyes of a child, like the book is told, could be really, really beneficial for not only the students, but even the teachers that are teaching the book. So I will get into more about my lesson plans and how I structured them and what I chose for them. So for the summative assessment, I wanted to have students create their own 4-page sequence of panels. So the graphic novels in general are put together with page layouts, panels, frames, gutters, all these stylistic elements put together to create page by page story. So throughout my lessons, I teach the kids the stylistic elements that they need to know to be able to understand the book. So I give them vocab lessons and quick activities to help them understand what is happening in the book that they're reading, the stylistic elements that are at play in the chapters. So I wanted them to be able to apply all of the things that I would have taught them, and all the knowledge and lessons that they learned, and be able to create their own mini graphic novel in a sense. So it's only just a short 4-page sequence of the panels, and I wanted them to depict 2 character relationships from the book. So within a book, we have the thematic and literary elements that are at play, and characterization and character relationships is a big one that is happening in any book, not just graphic novels. So I wanted them to be able to relate those characters and that character relationship and really just create their own ending. So I wanted it to happen after the book ended so that they could use prediction, inferencing, and even just be able to create their own ending if they wanted, because that allows the students to brainstorm and be imaginative and really make the project their own. And that is when students really shine and give you their best work, is when they are invested in it and they can really give you the best product that they want to give you. So like I said, they're going to predict what happens between any 2 characters and create that 4-page sequence. And I want them to use the stylistic elements that I teach them properly within their panels. I also give the students any medium that they want to use. If they're good at drawing, they can draw, but as you know, not a lot of people are good at drawing. So they're allowed to collage, they're allowed to paint, they're allowed to create a poster, a step-by-step slide doc, panel by panel. There's a lot of great graphic websites out there like Graphica, Google Draw, SmartArt is a great thing in Microsoft, Canva is a great website. There's a lot of platforms out there for students to really make the project their own and put their own thoughts, ideas, artistic abilities, and their own interests and hobbies into it. So that's why I really like that. Another great thing is using slide docs, Graphica, Google Draw, SmartArt, etc. All of those are also technology-based websites, and incorporating technology into the classroom and with students is really important because, as you know, the world is so technology-based. So having students have that medium and that outlet is a really good idea. I also wanted students to have a page reflection with their 4-page sequence, just so they can explain the stylistic elements that they chose, why they chose them, the character relationship they chose, why they chose it, and just a brief explanation of what they did and why, just so that you can assess as the teacher the comprehension that they gained from the unit, and if they properly learned what you wanted them to learn. So just quickly, stylistic elements, if you've never read a graphic novel, they are really important, like I said, because as you can see, these are 2 pages from the book, and there's not a lot of text on them. We can see what's happening because of the stylistic elements at play, but we don't necessarily get the actual text. But the stylistic elements are telling us so much about what's going on. So that alone is just the page layout. Krasaska really plays with page layout and likes to not keep it keep the same formality throughout his full text. He likes to mess around with it and change it up a bit. Some authors like to keep the page layouts almost the exact same every time you turn the page. Krasoska likes to play with watercolors, as you can see, and they all kind of blend together, and that happens a lot. He doesn't use framing. Framing in a graphic novel would be like, imagine a picture frame, pictures in the middle and the frames on the outside. Krasoska, as you can see, he does not frame his pictures. He lets them all just fluidity between each other. That's what he aims for, and it really works well for what he does. As you can see, the panels, they're there. They're not quite as distinct as other graphic novels, but they're there. The last one, as you can see, is almost like a triangle, and that's interesting. That would be a speech bubble, and then that would also be a speech bubble going into the gutter of another panel. And then as you can see at the bottom, like I said, there's not a lot of text. We can see physically that they are having so much fun in the pool, and we get everything we need to know from just those facial expressions. We don't need Krasoska to actually tell us they're having fun in the pool because we can physically see it. And that is a really cool aspect of graphic novels to teach the students. And then on the right side, we have another page layout that is broken into the 3 different panels. And then what's circled there is their facial expressions. Again, we don't need them to tell us that they're nervous, they're scared, and they're like, oh my gosh, we need to get out of here. We can see it on their faces, we can see the shock, and then the next panel, we can see them physically run away. Another really cool thing about graphic novels is the way that color plays a big role. On the left, you can see that, you know, it's bright, it's happy, they're having fun in the pool. And on the right, you can see it's dark, a lot of black colors, they're scared, they're running, something bad is happening. Color really plays an equal part in graphic novels between the plot, the mood, and the color and the stylistic elements. So when it gets dark, when it gets scary, usually the plot is going through like a dark twisty turn, something bad's about to happen. Or if it's light and it's happy, you know, the plot's happy, something good is happening, something fun is happening. That's a really cool aspect of graphic novels. So now I'm going to get into a few activities that I did that I hope that maybe you guys can, you know, take on as your own, switch them up a little bit, create your own other activity off of them that you can put into your own lesson plans and really enjoy, because I really enjoy these activities. So the first one is a tea party activity. It's a pre-reading exercise before the book has ever been read. It's like a lesson hook or an opener, and you have all these different Post-it notes, and you give one to each student in your classroom. And each Post-it note has either a statement or a picture on it, as you can see. And really, the students get to get up and walk around and interact with one another and talk to one another and explain and discuss what's on their Post-it notes. They don't get to physically trade them, just discuss what theirs says. Now, I physically took all of these statements or words from the book. I went from the prologue all the way to the last chapter. So the students are getting a wide, vast range of information of a book that they've never even read before. So the goal of this activity is just to have students use background knowledge, prediction, and inferencing, and create an I think prediction statement. So at the end of the activity, about 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning of class, you ask them to sit down and create an I think prediction statement. In no way does the prediction statement have to be right, because again, they've never read the book. They are just making a quick background knowledge based prediction statement about what the Post-it note said. So that's just a fun little activity, you know, to really get them thinking about what's going to happen in the book we're about to read. So the next thing I do is a class Padlet. If you don't know, Padlet is an online website that allows you to do word walls for your students in your classroom, and they can all access the word wall that you create as the teacher, or students can even create their own word walls if they really like the idea of them and want to practice on their own. I use this Padlet every day in my lessons and every day in class because these words are what I really want the students to know and to grasp from my lessons. So the ones on the left with the cool comic background are the stylistic element vocabulary words. Those are all the little things at play in the book, the depictions, the pictures, the frames, the panels, the gutters, everything I briefly went over earlier. Those are the things that the students have to be able to know and to understand within the graphic novel to fully comprehend what is happening within the text. And then on the right-hand side, we have some basic literary vocab words, theme, characterization, and plot. I chose those ones because those were the 3 that I really wanted them to focus on within the novel to pick out as they read. And I just go over them every single day as a language refresher for them and just really drive it home that they need to know these, memorize these, um, really understand them because, again, to scaffold for the summative assessment, these are the things that they need to know to be successful for that. So going over it every day is really beneficial for the students. Next thing I do in one of my plans is a matching activity. So after we learn that vocab and see the stylistic elements at play within the graphic novel as we read, I created this little worksheet for the students to be able to match and apply what they learned through the language lessons, the words to the actual pictures happening within the book. So I made them a word bank and got those pictures from the book again, and they just have to accurately, match the words to the right depiction of the vocab. Again, this checks student comprehension. If they're learning the vocab words and understanding the stylistic elements at play within the book, it allows them to apply the knowledge that they're learning within the language lessons and throughout their readings. And it just generally allows them to identify the stylistic elements within the graphic novel. So that's a good way to check student comprehension. Another fun little opener activity for students for a graphic novel is to take 6 pictures or less or more, whatever you decide, from the day's reading and put them in sequential order and number them so they know which one comes first, which one comes last within their reading that day. And make sure that all the words are blacked out so they have no text to read. All they're looking at are the actual pictures. This is a good exercise to start the day, especially because it makes them apply that vocab knowledge that they're learning directly to these pictures and use their background knowledge and look at what stylistic elements are happening, what they look like, what are their facial expressions, the color, the framing, the sequencing. They have to apply all of that knowledge to understand and try to make an accurate prediction statement about what's going to happen in the day's text. It is difficult because, again, a lot of these, they're not going to be able to connect how it gets from 3 to 4 or 4 to 5. You're missing a lot of pages in between. But using that content knowledge and that prediction and the background knowledge really allows the teacher to see if they're comprehending the stylistic elements and if they can properly apply them to a prediction statement. So after about 5 minutes of them looking at the pictures, they just create a simple 1 to 2 sentence prediction statement like the first activity, the tea party. In no way does it have to be right again. It's just a fun activity to get them thinking about what's going to happen in the day's reading. A really good way to assess students and if they're understanding what they're reading and the things you're teaching them in language lessons and vocabulary is doing a double entry journal. Double entry journals allow them on one side to quote directly from the book or an example from the book, and then directly across from it respond either how they feel about it or how it applies to what you want them to look for. And I'll explain that more. So for my double entry journals, they do one every single day during the audiobook reading. I do have students listening to an audiobook instead of independently reading. That allows struggling readers and English language learners to be able to follow along more easily and understand the text more easily. It also keeps everybody on the same page and at the same pace, so you have more control of your classroom and about what is happening. So as they're listening to the audiobook in the class, on the left side, they have to look for stylistic or literary elements at play. And then on the right side, they have to explain what they are and what's happening with them. So as you can see on the left journal, the first one, they list a couple page numbers of characterization, and then they explain that throughout the chapter, Leslie is trying to be a good mother. So then on the left are the page references to her, really striving to do that. And then on the right side, again, the fourth one down, it says page 95. And there's a quote, but it would be a long time for any of us, or I would see her again, because just as quickly as she reappeared, she was gone. And then on the right side, there's an explanation about Jarrett and Leslie and their relationship with one another. So this is just a good way to see, student comprehension of the language lessons, the vocabulary words that you're teaching them, and if they can accurately apply them to that day's reading within the text. One of the main things for my lesson plans and for the summative assessment was this relationship statement worksheet that I created. So as I said, I have them focusing on stylistic elements and literary elements. So there's a lot going on that they need to know. So I created this relationship statement idea. So basically, like I said earlier, stylistic and literary elements, even though they're completely different, they're within the same text and they actually relate to one another really, really well. So the first example that I'll give is color and plot. Like I said, when I showed you those two pictures, color and plot really relate to one another within a graphic novel because when the color gets really dark, really black, the plot tends to be like almost scarier. Something's about to happen, something did happen, usually not well, something bad is going on. And if it's light, then it's happy, they're having a fun time, something good is happening in the life of the characters. So color and plot directly have a relationship, sorry. So the students would then, in that chart above, relate one and one, so one stylistic, which is color, and one literary, which is plot. And then below, they would create a relationship statement, about 2 to 3 sentences. Relationship statements and this exercise are really good because it allows them to make those connections within the vocab and the elements that you're teaching them, and allows them to apply their knowledge of what you've taught them. And this directly prepares them for the summative of being able to compare two characters, compare two things. This really lets them practice that. It also lets them be able to see the stylistic and literary elements that are happening within the text to apply those accurately to their summative assessment. Another activity that is so key for the summative assessment is a somebody wanted but so worksheet. This is a characterization worksheet that allows the students to dig into more about the characters' lives and what is happening with each individual character. So on the left, the teacher would give them a predetermined category of characters, and then basically they just step-by-step create this statement. So the first character is Jarrett, and the first column is wanted. So the students think about something that Jarrett wanted. Well, Jarrett wanted a better relationship with his mother. And the next one is but. So what happened that didn't let him have a relationship with his mother? Well, Leslie couldn't get past her troubled life. So what happened because of that? So Jarrett is forced to live with his grandparents. And from there, students can just go on and on about how, he struggled with the empty void she created. She was in and out of his life, in and out of rehab. So there already is a character relationship between Jarrett and Leslie, and that is a great one for them to focus on the summative. So this exercise really allows them to hone in on the character relationships, pick those two characters that actually relate to one another, and think about that summative assessment that they're going to do. So overall, Hey Kiddo is an amazing graphic novel piece by Jarrett J. Krasowska, depicting this really, really hard topic to present to students and to teach to students, but he presents it in such a way that is so easy and relatable for young adult readers. I really think that this novel is so key to teach in the classroom because not only does it allow students and teachers to gain that bigger grasp on understanding a graphic novel, but it also allows the students to understand this hard topic, that it's happening around them, it's happening in the world today, and it's hard to go through a struggle with addiction, a struggle with drugs and crime, and especially because it tears families apart. So overall, my lesson plans, I really hope that the activities were kind of fun, kind of inspiring, made you think that maybe you want to apply them to one that you're going to do on your own or create, or just I really hope that you'll teach Hey Kiddo one day in your class, or maybe you'll go pick it up from the store when the stores open back up and read it yourself. It's an amazing read. It's a fast read, but to understand everything within the text, there's so much more than the words. And the stylistic elements at play are so beautifully presented by Krasowska. And I really hope that one day you'll pick this up and teach it to your students, or change these activities to make them your own and really, really create some great plans for your students. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope you learned something.